All right, let's just jump right into it. Today we're unpacking an explainer on literally one of the most intense, fiercely debated pieces of apocalyptic literature ever written, Revelation chapter 6. We're going straight to the source material today, stripping away the outside noise to look at the exact words and the incredibly deep narrative structure of this ancient manuscript. Whether you're coming at this from a theological angle, a historical one, or you're just fascinated by literature, you can't deny the sheer narrative power here. It's an absolute powerhouse of a text, so let's break down exactly how it works.
And listen, this text, it does not ease you in at all. I want you to picture the scene. The Lamb breaks open the very first of the 7 seals, and boom, instantly, there's this voice that sounds like actual thunder commanding a single word, come. It's abrupt, it's startling, and it immediately puts you on notice that something massive is being set into motion. There's no polite preamble here, just a thunderous kickoff.
So Act 1, the Lamb opens the seals, and the rapid escalation of conflict begins. We're breaking this narrative down into 3 main acts today, and we kick things off with a crazy fast escalation of earthly conflict. The first seal cracks, and out rides a white horse. Check out the specific symbols the text uses here. A bow, a crown. The rider is literally described as a conqueror bent on conquest. This first rider sets off a rhythmic, almost hypnotic cadence of colored horses, starting the whole sequence off with aggressive militaristic expansion and the absolute pursuit of power.
The pacing here is just relentless. The second seal opens, and now we've got a fiery red horse. And guys, this is where the narrative takes a really violent turn. We shift from this sort of structured, maybe even sanitized idea of conquest, straight into absolute chaotic bloodshed. The rider is handed a massive sword and given the terrifying power to physically rip peace straight from the earth. The vision is brutally specific, saying it causes people to kill each other. That initial order of the white horse, it immediately degrades into the chaos of the red.
Then, the third seal opens, and a black horse appears. But here's the twist. Instead of carrying a weapon of war, this rider is holding a pair of scales. It's a fascinating pivot. Suddenly, a voice echoes from among the 4 living creatures, laying down these incredibly strict, devastating economic terms. The focus of the destruction shifts directly from the edge of the sword to the emptiness of the stomach.
This perfectly illustrates a brutal picture of extreme scarcity and hyperinflation. Think about this. A mere 2 pounds of wheat, or maybe 6 pounds of cheaper barley, is going to cost an entire day's wages. That is a staggering 10 to 12 times markup for the ancient world economy. Literally, an entire day of backbreaking labor barely buys enough grain just to survive. But, almost paradoxically, the voice explicitly commands not to damage the oil and the wine. So the absolute basic necessities of life are heavily rationed, while the luxury items, those remain untouched. It highlights this profound, cruel economic disparity.
And this brings us to the crescendo of Act 1, the opening of the 4th seal and the arrival of the pale horse. Up to this point, the riders were just described by their tools or their actions. But here, the vision explicitly names the rider. It's death, and shadowing him directly is Hades, the ancient realm of the dead itself. It's a chilling personification, isn't it? It basically brings the dreadful logic of those first 3 horses to its ultimate, inescapable conclusion.
Now, to wrap your head around the sheer, unimaginable scale of this text, think about their dominion. Death and Hades aren't just localized threats. They are given power over a full 1/4 of the earth. Their mandate is to kill by sword, by famine, by plague, and by the wild beasts of the earth. I mean, the sheer statistical magnitude of the destruction described here is staggering, wiping out 25% of the globe.
So, summing up this first act, it's essentially a systematic, almost mechanical unraveling of earthly stability. We start with conquest on the white horse, we degrade into war and civil slaughter on the red, plummet into famine and economic ruin on the black, and finally hit mass death on the pale horse. It is a highly structured, terrifying literary progression of global collapse.
Moving right along to Act 2, the 5th seal, the cry for justice. Suddenly, everything just slows down. We pan away from all that horrifying global devastation we just saw into a really quiet, intimate space. There are no horses here, no weapons, no earthly disasters. Instead, the focus shifts entirely to the souls of martyrs. The narrative specifically notes that these individuals are waiting under the altar, having been slain strictly because of the word of God and the testimony they held onto. It's the sudden, striking shift from the physical torment of the earth to the spiritual realm of the slain.
But these souls, they aren't staying quiet. They cry out in a loud voice, bleating, "How long, sovereign Lord, holy and true, until you judge the inhabitants of the earth and avenge our blood?"
This drops a deeply human, highly emotional plea right into the center of this massive cosmic narrative. It's an agonizing cry for justice, demanding that the cosmic scales be balanced after all that chaotic slaughter we witnessed in the first 4 seals.
And the response they get is honestly pretty chilling. Justice is basically deferred. The text tells us each soul is handed a white robe, and they're told to just wait a little longer. But the reason why is what's so unsettling. They have to wait until the full number of their fellow servants, their brothers and sisters, are killed just as they had been. It heavily implies this preordained quota of suffering that hasn't quite been met yet.
Which brings us to Act 3, the 6th seal, the cosmic collapse.
That quiet little pause we just took in the spiritual realm, it shatters instantly. If the first 4 seals were about human society falling apart, the 6th seal completely transcends the earth. We're talking about the universe itself coming undone. The vision just explosively stacks these overwhelming, catastrophic events. There's a massive earthquake. The sun turns black like sackcloth. The entire moon turns blood red. The stars literally fall to earth like late figs dropping from a tree in a hurricane. The heavens themselves recede, rolling up like a scroll, and every single mountain and island is ripped from its place. I mean, this is an apocalyptic sequence where the very fabric of physical reality is completely tearing apart.
And how does humanity react to this universal unraveling? The text does something deeply profound here. It lists out the entire hierarchy of human society, the kings of the earth, the princes, the generals, the rich, the mighty, all the way down to everyone else, slave and free. And it explicitly notes that every single tier of society reacts with the exact same visceral terror. All human power structures instantly dissolve as everyone desperately scrambles to hide in caves and among the rocks of the mountain.
There's a really brilliant narrative juxtaposition happening here. Think back to Seal 5 for a second. We had the slain souls, the victims of the earth, crying out toward God, right? Actively demanding his judgment. But now, here in Seal 6, the powerful earthly rulers, the kings and generals, are completely terrified, doing whatever they can to hide from that exact same judgment.
The absolute panic of these earthly powers is captured so perfectly in this quote. They literally yell out to the mountains and the rocks, begging, "Fall on us and hide us from the face of him who sits on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb." They are so incredibly horrified by the cosmos coming apart that they would literally rather be crushed to death by collapsing mountains than face the one seated on the throne.
And that brings us right to the end of Revelation chapter 6. The source material basically leaves us hanging on this ultimate provocative question asked by those hiding in the caves. For the great day of their wrath has come, and who can withstand it? It's a haunting, open-ended conclusion to the 6th seal, and invites the reader, and all of us walking through this explainer today, to step back and really ponder the overwhelming weight of ultimate power, the demand for true justice, and just how incredibly fragile the human order really is when faced with the collapse of the cosmos itself. So, what do you think? Who actually can withstand it?